After saving a lynx cub, a woman is surrounded by the pride, and what they do is shocking. Sierra didn't expect to find anything in the ravine that morning, just some herbs, maybe a few early mushrooms. The cold mountain air had thinned, giving way to a quiet thaw. She had moved to the wilds of British Columbia 6 months ago, hoping the silence could heal the echoing void left after her sister's death. She had traded everything she once knew, city life, a promising job, people, for an old log cabin and the scent of pine. What she found instead, buried beneath a brush of snow and blood, was a lynx cub, barely breathing, one hind leg twisted unnaturally. Puncture wounds dotted its side, perhaps from a predator or a fight gone wrong. Its eyes were open but glazed. A slow, rasping breath escaped its little mouth. Sierra knelt down, her pulse skipping. She had no training, just instinct. Carefully, she removed her coat, wrapped the trembling cub, and tucked it against her chest. "I've got you," she whispered. She had no idea if the mother was watching, if danger was near, but she couldn't leave it. Back at her cabin, Sierra cleared the kitchen table and gently set the cub down on folded towels. It was so small, barely the size of a large kitten, but wild and beautiful, with tufted ears and thick fur that twitched at every touch. She cleaned the wounds with boiled water and a dab of antiseptic. She couldn't splint the leg, but she did her best to wrap it and keep the cub warm. She mashed up cooked chicken and broth, coaxing a few swallows past its lips. The cub let out a weak noise in response. "I'll name you, miss," she said softly. "You look like a cloud with claws." She didn't sleep that night. Every few minutes, she checked on Mist, who at last, by dawn, was still breathing. Shallow but steady. For 3 days, Sierra nursed the cub. Each day it gained a little strength. By the 5th day, Mist tried to stand. Awkward, limping, but determined. That night, Sierra stepped outside to bring in firewood and froze. Across the clearing, just beyond the tree line, 6 pairs of glowing yellow eyes watched her. Silent, still, lynxes, at least 5 of them adult-sized. A pride, but lynxes didn't travel in prides. Sierra's breath misted in front of her. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Then, the largest lynx stepped forward. It was massive, broader and more powerful than the rest, its silver gray fur rippling in the moonlight, its eyes fixed on her. She braced herself, but it didn't leap, didn't snarl. Instead, it stepped toward the cabin and stopped just at the edge of the porch. Another followed, then a third. They fanned out, but not like predators, more like witnesses. Then the largest lynx made a low, guttural chuff, a sound almost like acknowledgement. Sierra backed slowly into the cabin and shut the door. Inside, Mist stirred and let out a soft cry. The lynxes outside stayed all night. Over the next week, the lynxes returned, always at twilight, never approaching the cabin, never threatening. They watched from a distance as Sierra walked Mist into the clearing, allowing the cub to stretch and relearn how to move. Mist would mew, and the lynxes would chuff in response. One evening, Sierra left a raw chicken breast at the edge of the clearing. By dawn, it was gone. Then, something even stranger happened. She began to find gifts. A dead hare, perfectly intact, left at her back door. A bird's feather, rare from a snowy owl, placed on her porch rail. One morning, a heavy pelt was draped over a firewood stack, clean, warm, as if offered for use. That night, Sierra stepped outside and whispered, "Why are you doing this?" The lynxes stared silently. The largest one blinked slowly. Mist hobbled to the porch, sat beside her, and purred. Weeks passed. Mist healed rapidly, faster than Sierra expected. She became strong, playful, feral in spirit, but affectionate with her human, and the pride kept coming. One evening, Miss let out a chirping call and ran, surprisingly fast, into the forest. Sierra started after her, but stopped. Something told her to trust. She waited. Hours later, Miss returned, and she wasn't alone. Behind her came two young lynxes, likely siblings. They sniffed at Sierra cautiously. Then came the matriarch, the giant lynx who had led them all. The matriarch approached the porch for the first time. Slowly, regal, deliberate. Sierra stood still, heart pounding. The lynx looked into her eyes. Then she lowered her head, a gesture of respect. A second later, Miss climbed up onto the porch and nuzzled Sierra's leg. And then the matriarch did something that left Sierra breathless. She pressed her head gently against Sierra's thigh. The rest of the pride sat quietly, watching. In that moment, something passed between woman and beast. A silent agreement. A bond. Sierra had saved one of their own. Now, she was one of them. That summer, Sierra roamed the woods freely. The lynxes never interfered, but their presence was always felt. She'd glimpse them in trees, lounging on rocks, watching from ridges. When Miss finally returned to the wild fully, she went without fear, but not alone. She was now part of something larger, stronger, and so was Sierra. Years later, the locals still speak of her, the quiet woman in the northern woods who lived with lynxes, who was seen walking side by side with a giant silver cat. They call her Lynx Whisperer, but Sierra doesn't need titles. She just remembers the cub who needed her and the family who accepted her, not just as a rescuer, but as kin.